Hello everyone, this is Mariah Cruz, and you're listening to the Spiritual Deep Dives podcast. For thousands of years, there were ancient spiritual truths and mystical teachings passed down only to the highest initiates walking the path back to God. It hasn't been until recent times that this secret knowledge has been available to the masses. Our team spent over 40 years researching many diverse spiritual, religious, and scientific sources, recording the wisdom from the ascended saints and sages of East and West, tapping into the Akashic Records and calling on God's Holy Spirit to reveal the spiritual truths and science behind the unseen forces that govern our lives. In this podcast, we will explore these teachings from a unique perspective that you probably have never heard before and show practical ways you can integrate them into your life to resolve deep-seated personal problems, accelerate your soul's evolution, and help solve the world's dilemmas. In this episode of Teachings on Fallen Angels, Nephilim and Aliens, the Macchios will continue the story of Lucifer and how the Luciferians cloned themselves and produced a false race. They will also reveal the secret of creation on this planet and others. If you're joining us for the first time, we encourage you to listen to the first 5 episodes of this series first, because each new episode builds on the foundation of all previous ones. So, let's dive into what the Macchios have to say. Thank you for joining us in an episode that will truly make you believe that you stepped straight into a sci-fi movie. Trust us when we say that truth is stranger than fiction, and all that we're going to reveal really did happen. To begin with, we want to revisit some of what we talked about in episode 3, where Lucifer was taught the secrets of creation by his hierarchs, the Elohim and the Lords of Form. He was involved in the evolution of man, which included the creation of their 4 lower bodies, as well as bestowing God's divinity within that form. This was an exact and magnificent science of creation, specifically the whole idea of the physical form of man and woman, which is based on the golden ratio. This science is absolute perfection. Now, when we compare this physical form to the alien greys that we mentioned before, with their arms being too long, their stature being thin and short and huge head and eyes, it's clear that whoever created this race were not using the science of perfection from the level of the archangels and the lords of form. They got something terribly wrong. A little later, we will dig deeper into the nature of these beings, but for now, let's table this topic and move on with our story about the Great Rebellion recorded in the Bible and other texts. We know that after Lucifer was cast out of the heaven realm, he then proceeded, believe it or not, to create his own race by the millions. His purpose was to compete with the great sons and daughters of God on earth and all over the universe. He knew that by creating his own race, he could control them and hatch his evil plans through them. Now his lieutenant, Satan, did the same thing and produced a race that are called the Satans. You will find this term in various apocalyptic books, like the Book of Jubilees. One important thing to note about these new races is that they are soulless. They have no divine spark from the God source. Lucifer and Satan understood the sequence of creation, but because they were now cut off from God, they couldn't endow their own creation with a soul. This also ties into what we talked about in episode 4 about the pre-existence of souls, a topic we'll visit again later, but the point is, these fallen ones were cut off and so produced an entire race of soulless humans. This concept is reminiscent of many movies and TV series like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones, where there's never enough of them, so they have to create more. In our case, these beings were created because Lucifer and Satan had a lot of work to do and wanted to spread their evil influence through their creation throughout the galaxies. If you recall back in our first episode when we described the chart of your divine self, There is an upper figure, which is the God source or the I Am presence, a middle figure depicted either by the Christ of Jesus or of Krishna, and then the lower figure that houses the soul. The soul uses the 4 lower bodies as vehicles of expression. The physical body is what we see, the emotional body is what we feel, the mental body is our thoughts, and our etheric body holds all of our memories. Please click on the link in the notes to see this chart. Well, in the races created by Lucifer and Satan, all of this is gone. There is no God source, no Christ presence, and no divine spark of the soul. All there is then is a physical body that can be programmed with whatever they want to put into it and mould in whatever form they want it to look like. In many cases, the forms they create are very beautiful and enticing. In some cases, they are taller and have a certain magnetism that the Luciferians and the Satans programmed into them. As we mentioned earlier, truth is stranger than fiction. Let's keep that in mind as we continue our story about these soulless races. So we're talking about mechanized man, a robot creation, but not in the sense that they are filled with circuitry and wires. They have a lot of issues, but you would never know it because of the way they are programmed. We're talking about people who look like people, of flesh and blood, but yet they are mechanized. And again, this revolutionary information was gathered from the Akashic Records, which we described in our first episode. Many science fiction writers and movie producers have also tuned into these records and this mechanization concept to one degree or another. We remember Data from the Star Trek series. There's also the Stepford Wives, and more recently, the readaptation of Westworld. Now, imagine a Westworld type of mechanization, but there's no circuitry. There's no panel off the back of their head to open and plug into. They don't go crazy. They maintain a humanness throughout their embodiments, and there really is no way to tell that they are any different from you and me. But is there a way we can tell who they really are? Let's keep diving deeper to find the answer. You might be surprised to know that these mechanized creations are mentioned in the New Testament. They are called the Seed, or Children of the Evil One, as well as Sons of the Wicked One. The Evil One is one of the names that Lucifer is called. The Wicked One is a name given for Satan. Along this theme, we want to read something from a lecture Elizabeth Clare Prophet gave on December 30th, 1982. She talked about this race that was manufactured millions of years ago, unrecorded in history, but whose memory was accessed in the Akashic Records by Mrs. Prophet. Here's what she said. There are millions of robots on Earth today, godless, soulless beings who have disappeared into the human race, who are not identifiable, who have been programmed with their sense of humour, their sense of religion and politics. They come in many flavours to suit the personality of the unascended sons of God on Earth. They have crossed over into the human race, having evolved for millions of years. What we're discussing is an important revelation that the Ascended Masters decided to start releasing to the people of this planet in 1965 through a series of dictated letters called the mechanization concept. See the episode notes for a link to a book of these letters available on Amazon. The level of advancement, the ability to create chemical beings and give them life with no actual soul is an astounding and shocking feat. But we have to realise it's been going on a very long time. Just because those listening may be hearing of it for the first time doesn't change anything, and there's no reason we should freak out about it. We know that the power of God, the I Am presence, the power of the Great White Brotherhood and the Ascended Hosts is incomprehensible and far greater than any of the miscreations and their creators that we are talking about. As we discuss what really are manifestations of the energy veil, or evil, it begins to awaken our understanding of why we live on such a warring planet. We can go back thousands and thousands of years, and what do you find? War after war. We don't mean to say that every war, or every person who fights in a war, is connected to these mechanized or synthetic creations. But let's think for a moment. What about some of these leaders, or some of the ongoing problems between nations, land grabs, and atrocities that have taken place? What if they could be traced back to something deeper, something ancient? We'll leave that thought lingering for now, and come back to it later. We know that horrific crimes are committed, for instance, against children. We all hear about this, and many will say, how could people do such horrendous things? Based on all we've discussed, you should now know what the answer is. They are not people, not in the sense that we know how normal people should behave because they have no remorse. We've seen this again and again. There's no sense of, what did I just do? I'm so sorry I did this terrible act against these children and I should be punished. And of course there's no conscience, because conscience comes from the Christ self, the higher self, working through the divine spark of God in the heart, which these creations do not have. And the soul itself, if it were present, would know right from wrong. But since they're programmed with none of that, then there is no inner barometer. They have no concept that what they are doing is wrong, because as we discussed in episode 2, it's all just a point of view to them. So why not program thousands of these human creatures with no conscience to roam our world and others and cause havoc in various areas? And then we ask ourselves, how can humanity be so inhuman to itself? Well, now we have the answer. We were given this amazing insight, this divine knowledge, by the ascended masters to finally understand the planet, its history, and what is really happening on Earth. Now we want to add that the Luciferians and Satans engaged in extensive genetic engineering upon the races they found on various planets. We're talking about the sons and daughters of God, the souls of light, those who were originally created by God but had become vulnerable, which we explained in episode 2. The purpose of the genetic engineering of these godly races was to limit their connection to the I Am presence, the higher self. They inserted wedges through various forms of genetic manipulation so that these souls would not even know they had a connection to God, a spiritual interface that people of light would normally have. So they tampered with that interface, and the connection was no longer being made, so these individuals became disconnected from their divine source. Meanwhile, you have the forces of light, the angels and the cosmic hierarchy, also trying to help the races that are truly souls of light, who are attempting to evolve on a given planet. So both sides are vying for the soul of the individual. One side is trying to depreciate and disconnect the soul. The other side is trying to raise it up into higher consciousness. So this is a tremendous dilemma. From what we've said so far, some people may think that the entire galaxy was taken over, but that's not the case. We don't know the percentages, but we just wanted you to know there are far more ascended and unascended beings of light than there are those who have become part of the consciousness of evil. The ascended masters tell us that some planets were never affected by the fallen ones because they were highly evolved spiritually. They know about evil, the energy veil, but they never succumbed to it. We actually have more planets in the universe that were not attacked than those that were. Now, about the genetic engineering. On various planets, these fallen ones also created viruses that were specifically designed to change the genetic code of many of the souls of light. Tampering with DNA and the genetic code is another serious infraction that happened on the now lost continents of Mu, or Lemuria, and Atlantis. The Ascended Masters have taught that both good and bad karma is transmitted through and from the DNA into the genetic code. So, tampering with DNA and the genetic code affects much more than just physical traits. They go after our DNA for this very reason, to manipulate karma, to perhaps block it or redirect it. Who knows what this kind of manipulation can really do? So based on this information, what do you think about the millions who were injected with the mRNA vaccine during the COVID pandemic, which we know changes our DNA? Could there be a connection between this and the agenda of the fallen ones? Let us know what you think in the comments. Now, the motive for all of this was the fact that they were cast out of the heaven world and could not attack God directly, nor could they attack the great spiritual hierarchy which is sealed in the higher planes. So these fallen ones are in a state of revenge. How are they going to get back at God? The answer should be clear. They go after God's offspring, His creation. We see that playing out on this planet today. It's your typical scenario where these terrible individuals don't go after the person directly, but instead attack the rest of the family. And the thing is, they are extremely intelligent in their ability to read a race of people. They understand their vulnerabilities. They can also read the karmic cycles that are coming down to a group, a nation, or an individual. They are very advanced when it comes to knowing where they can move in, where they can throw a wedge, who and what they can manipulate. So let's recap. Many planets, including our own, were invaded by the Luciferians because we had become vulnerable. Remember, we could not have been taken over unless we were vulnerable, unless our guard was down. We decided that obeying precepts like those in the Ten Commandments or Gautama Buddha's teachings were old-fashioned. These are simple examples, but the point is, by and large, we moved our center away from God and more into materialism, indulgences, and the pleasures of the flesh. We started creating negative karma, which made us vulnerable, and any planet that is vulnerable will be karmically taken advantage of by the fallen ones. That's how they operate. We want to read a short paragraph from the book Mysteries of the Holy Grail, published by the Summit Lighthouse. In this quote, the Ascended Masters give a description of the modus operandi of the Luciferians and the Satans. Here's what was written. Great were the forces of the mechanical ones. Their spaceships were extensions of motherships, and their black magicians under Satan extended their material power through clones of themselves, chemical humanoids programmed with malintent to the destruction of the souls of the standard bearers of the Lord's Christ. There was a lot in that one paragraph. We just want to briefly explain that the term black magician that was mentioned is defined as the scientific practice of evil in the book The Path of Christ and Antichrist, also by the Summit Lighthouse. Now remember, evil stands for the energy veil, so black magic is the scientific practice of manipulating the energy veil. It is a necessity of evil, for without it evil could not exist. Black magic involves the misuse of God's energy for any purpose that is inconsistent with the will of God. It is employed for two primary reasons. 1. Gaining ungodly control over the manifestations of God, which means the creations that come directly from Elohim and the Lords of Form. 2. Securing for the finite self through fraudulent manipulation of cosmic law the things of this world such as money, fame, and the power to manipulate men and nations. So the soul, when left alone, automatically ascends as it seeks union with its divine self. But once it's been tampered with by the fallen ones, that natural ascent is blocked or distorted because a wedge has been implanted through black magic. Now, back to the quote from the book, Mysteries of the Holy Grail. The passage also said that the creation of these chemical humanoids was aimed at the destruction of the standard bearers of the Lord's Christ. What this really means is the destruction of the original creation that the Elohim would make, the perfect man. Man is a universal term to mean all of mankind, and the perfect man is represented in the middle Christ figure shown in the chart of your divine self that we described before. This is the ideal man because the soul is bonded to that Christ and it has immediate access to the God source above. So when God creates, he maintains a Christic standard which does not drop below a certain vibration. We wanted to note that any time we talk about up or down, we're really referring to the frequency of vibration, especially of the actual atomic structure of the physical form and its 4 lower bodies. If the mental and emotional body densifies, then the atomic structure begins to slow down. The rotation of the electrons around the nucleus becomes slower, and that's where we get the term going down, as in descending in vibration. The opposite term, going up, is the acceleration of the atomic structure, the increase of frequency and vibration. This change affects all the cells and atoms in the physical form. With all we've revealed so far in this series, we're not suggesting that all is hopeless, because it's not. We're at a point where the heavenly hierarchy is not going to allow this massive manipulation to continue on forever. Change is coming, which we'll get into later. So perhaps we'll stop here for now and continue our next episode with more eye-opening revelations on what really occurred on planet Earth and in this solar system long ago. Thank you for listening to this podcast. In episode 7, we will uncover astonishing revelations from the book, Mysteries of the Holy Grail, exploring synthetic planets, the real story behind Pluto, the rise of mechanized man, and the cosmic history of Earth before the Garden of Eden. Learn what the Ascended Masters have revealed about Lucifer, the fourth root race, and the spiritual tools that can protect us today. Thank you for listening to Spiritual Deep Dives. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll catch you in the next episode.